Welcome to quite possibly one of the best Object 279E games I have seen in a long time, and that is of course played by Moi Moi here in the tank, obviously with its specific skin we can see right here, looking very fresh on the Object 279E, but of course it is the broken tank at tier 10. Some say it's even a tier 11 really, when you look at just the armor model and the invulnerability that this tank provides to pretty much anyone that decides to play it and log in and have a couple of games. But Moi Moi here is going to showcase what a good player in the Object 279E can do in a matchup where, yeah, it's 3 tier 10s per side, and Moi Moi is going to come up against a lot of the enemy team that could potentially pose a threat in the tanks like the AE Phase 1 here. However, when you get hold down with the tank, yeah, there's not a lot you can do against an Object 279E, and whether or not this tank is completely and utterly broken within World of Tanks is, well, I guess down to you to decide. But for me personally, this tank was one of those that you just didn't want to see within the game. The forward momentum that this tank can bring to your side within the game is just, oh, it's bloody bonkers, to be honest. And yeah, when you see just how many tanks that Moi Moi can take on his own in this replay, oh, it's just disgusting, really. Now, obviously you'll see Moi Moi here being very aggressive, and that is exactly what you can do in the Object 279E, and that is because just trying to aim at the weak point, being the very minuscule lower plate that this tank does get, and is primarily only pennable if you manage to hit it whilst going over a ridgeline, like Moi Moi is trying to kind of bait the Emil into hitting. Yeah, it is very difficult for the opponents that you come up against, especially if they're lower tier than you, to be able to have the penetration just to even glance at trying to go through your armor from the front at least. Now, within this game, obviously, DPM is not particularly the nicest and most favourable thing within the Object 279E, but you still have not awful DPM, which means that yes, you can still rack up ridiculous damage numbers. As long as you're surviving and you can use the armour profile of the tank to the best of your ability, then yes, you can still have good games. But you see here, the Emil is he's not having a fun time trying to pen the armour of the Object 279E, and already within this game you can see he's managed to pick up 1200 assistance damage already, and he's pushed his way almost further forward into the enemy positions than they've managed to drive forward into his own. And so with this game, I guess the whole meta with the Object 279E is just to get up close and personal and just be an absolute menace to anyone that you're going to come up against, and that is exactly how Moi Moi is carrying out this game, as he's just pestering this 50 TP here, and the 50 TP just doesn't really have a chance at really doing anything to Moi Moi here. Moi Moi, of course, does need to be a little bit careful of showcasing any of his side armour to anyone, but when the VK1001P is sat looking somewhere else, there's no problem of that. Obviously, within this game, Moi Moi is a bit hesitant to just cross the river, and obviously that's probably down to the fact that there are enemy TDs on the team which could get angles on from various positions, but it's unlikely even they will be able to penetrate, because only one of them being two of them being the Gorilla and the T110E3 are going to even be able to go through his armour, and I guess even from the front it becomes very difficult unless they do get that lower plate. And so yeah, I see where people come in with this tank being completely and utterly overpowered within the game, and I can see exactly why. Obviously, already 4,000 damage, make that 4,500, and just Moi Moi is just wrecking the enemy team. There's nothing they can do, and whether or not this is actually balanced within World of Tanks is a completely different story, setting the Tornvang on fire. It's just bonkers. Now, the first horrific round into the back of from the WZ-111-5A there actually takes a decent chunk of Moi Moi's hit points away. However, the frontal armour is now facing the WZ, and there is probably nothing he can now do, which just the fact that this tank is even in the game is just something despicable, really. And I guess everyone is able to pick up this tank, but even then you require a lot, and I mean a lot of work to be able to get your hands on this tank, being the kind of reward for completing various different tasks and missions within World of Tanks. Obviously, what you do have to be careful of when you're playing in this tank is anyone that decides to flank you. And talking about flanking, the 53 TP comes out of absolutely nowhere to try and face hug an object 279E. Was that particularly a good idea? No, is the correct answer. 6.6 thousand damage, make that 7,000 damage against the 53 TP, and just continually pestering this 53 TP. And there's nothing that this tank could ever do against the frontal armour of the tank, unless a Charfutur decides to come around the corner, and of course he does. Moi Moi puts a nice solid round into the front of the Charfutur as he's angling towards both the Charfutur and the 53 TP, who he needs to be a little bit careful of, but he is going to put one round into the Char here. Obviously, then he moves in front of the wreck of the tank behind, which means that then he can avoid getting hit in the backside from the 53 TP, who subsequently gets taken out by the Renegade on his team. Now that's the tank you definitely don't want to be getting hit by, and that is the ISU 152, who decides to go for the shot anyway, and unfortunately for him, Moi Moi hits those tracks, and when you get in this position, there is not a lot that he's going to be able to do against Moi Moi. Obviously, this is the pinnacle of what an Object 279E gameplay is like. 9,500 damage, and to be honest with you, Moi Moi hasn't really had much stiff opposition, and I guess that is exactly how this Object 279E plays within the game. It's just one of those tanks that has the ability to just make it look easy, and make it look easy does Moi Moi make it. Anyway, without further ado, he does progress this flank. He's now going to try and get into a position to spot some of the enemy opponents, and if he can do that successfully, he'll be able to pick up the victory. Obviously, it's looking like he's picked up the STRV S1 here, puts a nice solid round into him, 380 damage. Not particularly the highest of rolls that you could expect with this tank, but not quite bringing him up to 10,000 damage yet, but soon to be. Anyway, 4,170 blocked is something that you won't be seeing in a lot of tanks within World of Tanks, and I guess that's just because the armour profiles of modern tanks just don't work as well. But the Object 279E definitely does, as you see the STRV bounce off him once again, but there is no bouncing off of the STRV, and so yeah, this is just where it feels disgusting to even witness this kind of level, as Moi Moi just hits him once again with a nice round solid into the STRV. It really does feel like it's just a point and shoot, a click and shoot. It's like as if he's playing against bots, really, because there's not much they can do. Even some of the best skilled players, if they're coming up face to face with an Object 279E, will struggle and find it very difficult to be able to have the impact that they probably want and deserve within World of Tanks. Obviously, with that last kill on the STRV, he's managed to pick himself over 10,000 damage already within this game, and with the fact that the CS59 is on full hit points and a lovely round into the side of him, setting him on fire, brings his grand total even higher within this game, and a nice round connects into the Grilla 15 on the move. Very, very easy. And once again, just making this game look easy. The Object 279E is just one of those tanks that you really shouldn't have to come up against within World of Tanks. And do you, as a person watching this video, think that this tank is balanced? Because I don't think very many people will. And I really certainly hope Wargaming don't continue with the amount of these sort of tanks coming into the game. It seems like every premium tank or every reward tank has to be better than the one previous, and I get it, they want to sell tanks, but at the cost of the gameplay, I don't know. But here we go, Moi Moi here with a fantastic result within the game, picking up a victory, and certainly one of the best games I've seen in a long time, even if it is in one of the most broken tanks within World of Tanks, being the Object 279E. Let me know what you think. Of course, we'll move into the post-battle results screen so you can check out exactly how much silver and how much he fired in terms of premium rounds and everything about the tank and battle. Now, with such an amazing round of World of Tanks by Moi Moi here, we did manage to see the ace tanker, of course, for 12,000 damage. And not just 12,000 damage, 12,624, 7 kills, 1,900 base experience, 246,000 silver earned, with basically 100,000 coming from the standard game and 76 from a personal reserve. Yeah, just a bonkers round of World of Tanks, although even making 245,000, 171,000 of that went on ammunition. So yeah, exclusive premium in the Object 279E. Does that make it fair and balanced even more? I don't quite know, but yeah, definitely Moi Moi carrying his team, probably totaling more damage than the rest of the team combined, but it's no surprise when you are playing such a brilliant tank with a brilliant player behind it. And yes, what a fabulous round of World of Tanks. If you want to check out more videos just like this one, they should be on screen, and definitely let me know what you think of this piece of shit tank, the Object 279E, and how disgusting it has made World of Tanks on PC. Other than that, I hope you have a fantastic rest of the day, and I hope you'll join me back in a later video coming soon. Goodbye.